when I share this lesson, it's one that really impacted the way that I do business and the way that I go about charging for my business, which fundamentally impacted and improved the price that I get to charge, and better than that, the expectations of my clients. And so why don't I get into it straight up here, and I'll start out with a little story. We went to Disneyland last week. So I took my family to Disneyland. Our kids are still Disneyland age, 11 years and 8 years old is my two children. And we get to the park at 8 o'clock. That's when it opens. We were staying down at the beach. So normally we would stay at the Disneyland Hotel and you get an extra hour. You start at 7, but we got in at 8 on this particular day because we were staying at a different hotel down by the beach, which if you're not familiar with the area, it's about like 40 minutes away. So we get to Disneyland at 8 o'clock. We walk in the gates and we start hitting up rides. We had this Genie Plus Pass, which allows you to basically hold your place in line when somebody else is, when you're not there yet. And so you get to go on a lot more rides a lot faster. And so I made notes of all the rides that we went on before 11:30 in the morning. So we had hit Buzz Lightyear Blasters, Space Mountain, Star Tours, Thunder Mountain Railroad, Pirates of the Caribbean, and Millennium Falcon, all before 11 a.m., which if you've ever been to Disneyland, when I was a kid and going to Disneyland, I remember waiting in line for 2 hours to get on any real ride. Like Star Tours was like, I remember that ride waiting for 2 hours to get into it. I actually tried to cut in that line when I was like, I think 10, and I still feel bad about that. But I'm glad that I'm getting over it. So we did all of that, and then we went to lunch, and then by 2:30, we had done the Rise of the Resistance, which, by the way, pay extra to go on that ride. It's awesome. It's like being in Star Wars. I was waiting for that ride since I was like 6 years old. And we did Splash Mountain. All of this was done before 2:30. And then we sat there, the four of us sat there, me and my wife and my daughter and my son, and we started thinking like, well, what else is it that we want to do? And so we thought about going on rides again. So we'd already been on Space Mountain, we'd already been on Pirates, we'd already been on Millennium Falcon. The ride lines for all of those things were up around an hour and a half, 2 hours. And it wasn't really worth it to us to go do them again. And we couldn't think of anything else that we wanted to go on that we hadn't been on. Couldn't convince either of my kids to go on Indiana Jones, so that wasn't really something that we needed to do. It wasn't an issue. And so we did the craziest thing because we had plans to be there until 8:30 and have a ride come and pick us up. We were going to go have dinner in downtown Disney and then come back. But we decided to have the ride come and pick us up early. We had them come pick us up at 4:30, which gave us just a little bit more time to walk around downtown Disney. My kids got some souvenirs. And here's the thing, guys. We were telling ourselves this story about the time. And it's like we got here, we came all the way down here, we invested in these tickets, which by the way, Disneyland's like $1,000 for a family of 4 just to get in the park these days. But we invested all of this. And then it's funny because the lesson that I'm sharing with you guys here is exactly the one that I needed to be reminded of last week in my private life, which is a lesson that I learned in my business life like a year ago. It's not about the time, it's about the impact. That's the lesson. It's not about the time, it's about the impact. Now, how does this relate, this story of Disneyland, relate to you and your business and what you charge? And it is that very lesson. It's not about the time, it's about the impact. So forever, you've probably been taught, trained, and educated that you should sell your services based on the hour, the hourly rate to do something. And that is a terrible way to go about doing it because it puts you in the category of an hourly wage worker. The best example that I can give you of this is attorneys, because attorneys typically like to pride themselves on how much they earn and how valuable their time is. And so they'll sell you that time by the hour. I remember reading an article in the Wall Street Journal, maybe probably 5 years ago, 6 years ago, talking about how some lawyers were charging $1,000 an hour. And that made front page, I think, of the business section of the Wall Street Journal. And at the time, I thought, whoa, $1,000 an hour. That is amazing. Like, they should do that. But then I started thinking about it in the context of what I've learned over the last several years and fully applied over the last year, is that you have to stop equating how much you charge with how many hours you work. The first job you ever got was likely an hourly job. I know mine was. I worked at a sporting goods store in high school, and I got paid $7 an hour. So every hour that I worked was worth $7 to me. That's what I would get. And fast forward, If you tried to charge by the hour right now, then you're limited in the amount that you can completely take home versus charging based on the value of what you do. This is the fundamental thing. It's not the value to you of what you do, it's the value to your prospects of what you do, the value to your customers of what you do, which is probably dramatically different than what the value of it is to you. And here's why. Because what you do is normal and ordinary to you, but it seems to be impossible for somebody else. I'm going to use an example that is probably an unlikely one, and it's really going to demonstrate this. So let's say that I was a personal trainer, and what I was really good at was, one, being fit myself, because you've got to lead the way. If you're a fat personal trainer, then I don't understand how you think anybody's going to buy from you. You've got to be case study number one in whatever it is you're doing. I don't care what that is. If it's something where you're selling meditation services, you have got to be like super still and on point when it comes to your meditation game. If you're selling healthcare, like I would never have a obese doctor because they're not healthy people themselves. If you want to sell relationship coaching, you better have an awesome relationship. If you want to sell mechanic services, your car better work. You've got to be case study number one. You get the point with that at this point in the conversation. But let's say that I am a personal trainer. And because I'm a personal trainer, I am going to help people lose weight. Because that's what most people want when they go see a personal trainer. Easy to gain weight, hard to lose weight. And let's say that my target market is executives. I want to get people that are earning at least $250,000 a year. Doesn't matter if they own their own company or if they own a different company. And I equate the value of my time based on what everybody else with a similar service is charging for that. So now I'm basing my worth off of what everybody else thought their worth was. The challenge with that is everybody else is broke. So you can see the problem. If I base my pricing off of what everybody else does, then I start thinking about, well, they're charging by the hour. I'm going to charge by the hour. They're charging $99 an hour, so I'm going to charge $99 an hour. But that isn't understanding what it was worth to the prospect. Because let's say to this particular prospect, it was going to change whether or not he got a life insurance policy for $10 million to take care of his family if he dies early. Now the value is a lot bigger. Because now we're talking about legacy, we're talking about protection, we're talking about a connection beyond his domain of body into his domain of balance. And even his domain of being, because there is a confidence component to knowing that your family is taken care of, no matter what happens to you. Understanding what it's worth to him takes two things off the table. One, it takes the hourly charge off the table, because who gives a shit? The second thing it takes off the table is everybody else's lower prices, because they're charging for really their worth, not what's worth to the client. So we've got to look at it in the context of the client's eyes versus our own eyes when we are coming through with this. The next piece of this that's really, really important when you stop equating your time with money is you can do your impact work a lot faster. So here's the example of this. Right now, my engagements with clients are typically up to 6 months. And I say up to 6 months because even if I said this is a 6-month contract, I'm now equating my value with the amount of time that I am working. So it's up to 6 months. Because in the conversation of sales, I'm like, listen, man, here's the results that you're going after. These are the things that you told me that you wanted my help to accomplish. If we accomplish those things in the next 3 weeks, are you going to be upset that we did it so fast? And the answer, of course, is no. That'd be awesome. Like, let's do it in 3 weeks. And my response is always, okay, great. We may work together for 3 weeks. Still pay the amount for the results because that's what you're buying from me. You're not buying my time. You're buying the results that I can help you get. That's what I sell. That's what I'm going to have you consider selling. And whatever it is that you provide, sell the result, not the process. Not the hour. Sell the result. Figure out what your true result is, your true net benefit to your clients, the ones that you have right now, and then start positioning your product as a results-based product rather than a time-based product or a duration-based product to your new prospects that you interview for new sales. And when you do this, you're going to find that you dramatically expand the cost that the consumer pays, but they're happier to pay it because they're paying for the specific of the result rather than the uncertainty of your time. All right, guys, that's it. That's the show for the day, everybody. Man, take this lesson. Like, of all the lessons that I've shared with you, this one has made me more money than any of the other things because it allows me to charge what I am truly worth in the prospect's eyes. Chances are you could triple your prices, whatever your prices are right now, in whatever market you're in right now, even with all of your stories about how it'll never work for me, they'll never pay. They will, if you can get the formula right. So the CTA today is start to work on this formula of what the true result is of your product or your service. And it's a really hard thing to get. Most people don't get it. I'm not going to share with you exactly how to do it here because it's one of the things that people pay me a lot of money to help them learn. But start getting clear on what the real value is of what you provide. And start doing that in the next 24 to 48 hours. And of course, before you leave, if you know somebody that needed to hear this message today, they're charging by the hour for their work, and they need to shift their mentality around this, share this video with them. Don't just keep it for yourself. Give it out to the world. Give it out to the people you know that need to hear exactly this message. I greatly appreciate that, guys. I will see you on the next video.